Call the meeting to order. I'd like to ask for any declaration of conflict of interest.
I declare a conflict of interest.
The notice of public hearing application for minor variance file A-03-25. Applicant Alex DeConing, location of the property 8289 Egremont Road to permit the construction of a new livestock barn and manure storage closer to the nearby sensitive land use residential than otherwise permitted, and to allow the new barn to be connected to an existing barn to facilitate the shared use of facilities. The proposed livestock barn and manure storage necessitates variances related to regulations associated with minimum distance separation, MDS, required by between non-compatible issues, but more specifically, the proposed livestock barn and manure storage would result in an MDS of 235.7 meters to a residence on a property to the west of the subject lands, where an MDS of 249 meters is required as calculated using AgriSuite and OMAFRA tool. Take notice that an application under the above file will be heard by the Committee of Adjustment April 22nd at 4 p.m. at the Warwick Township Municipal Office. Any person may attend the public hearing and or make written or oral representation either in support or in opposition to the proposed minor variance. The meeting will be also live streamed on the Township YouTube channel. Can I get approval of the minutes from the previous meeting?
Also move.
Seconder,
Like that.
you. Get the chair, or can I get Heather to read the application?
I'll
That's
give
the
you the,
secretary, dates and place of notice public.
yeah, the notices were sent by regular mail and posted on the property on April 2nd, 2025.
Is there any letters, submissions supporting or opposing the application?
We didn't receive any application or any correspondence about it.
Thank you. I'll now ask Johan to explain the planner's report. All your
Through the chair, thank you. Good afternoon, respected committee members, applicants, and the viewing public. Just wait for the presentation. Next slide, please. Right. So the site is located at 8289 Egremont. The site is zoned A1, so agriculture. The surrounding sites are also zoned A1 agriculture, and the surrounding sites are mainly fields with some rural residences and livestock operations. Next slide, please. So this is a site photo of 8289 Egremont Road taken from the street. So there is a residence on the property, as you can see. Behind that, there is an existing poultry barn. The proposed barn is proposed to connect to this barn. And on the left, it's hidden behind some trees. There are some storage structures. Next slide, please. So this is a picture behind the house that we saw, showing the existing barn. Next slide, please. So this is the right side of the barn, which would show where the proposed barn is and manure storage is supposed to be. The proposed barn is going to be on the right side, and the manure storage is going to be further behind the proposed barn. Next slide, please. So this is a closer picture of where the proposed barn is going to be. Next slide. This is a picture of the other side of the existing barn and why the site constraints on why the proposed barn cannot be there. So it would block the ventilation of the existing barn, and there's an existing manure pit there. Next slide, please. This is the house in which the MDS variance is required. So it's the house west of this property. Next slide. All right. So this is the site itself. On the site, there is a residence. On the right side of the site, in this picture, there's 3 storage structures. And then there's the existing barn with the existing manure pit. What's shown in purple is the proposed barn location, and behind that you have the proposed manure storage locations. On the site itself, it meets the zoning setbacks and it meets the MDS setbacks for the site. So the setback for the proposed barn from the existing right-of-way to the barn itself, what's required is 50 meters. They have well in excess of that, 120 meters. And from the nearest lot line, they require 25 meters and they have 32 meters. But they require a 249 meter MDS setback to residences on surrounding properties and to the residents directly west of the proposed site. All they have is 235.7 meters. So we're looking at a 13 meter variance, which is 5%. It was recommended to the proponent to move the barn back so that they would meet MDS. But what was conveyed to me, and there's a letter as part of this application from the proponent, was that it would be incredibly difficult to do so. The corridor connecting both barns would need to be straight. And if it was moved back, they would need the corridor to be an L shape, and it wouldn't work for that conveyor corridor. As per the Planning Act, the Committee of Adjustment must consider whether the variance meets the four tests of a minor variance. The four tests is it minor? Does it meet the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw? And is it appropriate for the site? So the first test is it minor? In this case, it's on the cusp of it being minor, but it's the opinion of planning staff that it is minor. It's a 13 meter variance. It's a 5% variance, but that is considered with the other considerations of the site. So it's an expansion of an existing livestock operation. So there's already an existing context there. Also, this is a unique scenario in which they're trying to connect both barns to share facilities. I believe it's the packing room and the egg coolers. We've done this in the past to make it easier for farmers. It is planning staff's opinion that it meets the intent of the official plan and the zoning bylaw as well. Is it appropriate for the property? We believe it is. It's in the agricultural area. There is an existing context. It's an expansion of an existing livestock operation. There's also the right to farm concept within the county official plan. The right to farm concept is farming operations. They have a priority over surrounding uses in the agricultural area, other uses in the agricultural area, if it meets the other criteria. And also, this is a very unique scenario in which both barns are being connected. Next slide, please. So as you mentioned, it's consistent with planning policy and it meets the four tests of a minor variance. And next slide. And it's a recommendation that the Township of Warwick Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance. And I open myself to any questions you may have.
Any questions for the planner at this time? No? Alex, if you would like to speak to this, you're more than welcome to. Just pull up the chair and use the microphone. You don't have to. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, so basically Johan pretty well summed up everything there. It's a means for me to save some money and not have to build a whole new facilities because of this expansion. Currently right now, the reason I'm looking at building this barn is because sizing requirements are changing in the industry, and that would pretty much make my own barn, the existing barn obsolete, as in I would be only able to put half as many birds in there. So that's why I'm building this new barn. But then this old packing room and egg cooler that would still be functional, very good to use, wouldn't be used. So that's why I want to put it there, use the existing building.
Thank you. Is there anyone in attendance? If they have any questions or comments, please state your name and address prior to making comments, and if so, come up to the microphone.
Should I do my hair? Carrie Adams, 8249 Egremont Road. I'm the residents, or we are the residents that is you're in need of the minor variance for. It's just, I have concerns the building that we're trying to twin is not an older building. It has only recently been there. I'm not sure. Is it 5 years old?
It was built in 2015.
Oh, so it's 10 years already. But when that was built, we had a very hard time living in our house that we have had there for over 150 years because of the smell associated to that barn. So to put another barn closer to our house, we're not going to be able to sit outside at nights. I mean, it has been that bad in the past. I'm also concerned that if we want to do something on our property, is this going to limit what we can do on our own property with our own residents in the future if we have another barn that close to us? These regulations and changes in the industry, I understand, and I do not want to stop progress. But I just question if there's somewhere else that this barn could be located other than close to our house. Or even on, I know, expanding, going to the back or something. It's not that I really don't want the barn there, plain and simple. And it has to do with the proximity and limitations to our property, should it happen. Just wanted to have a say, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any?
I don't know if we can go back to the map view where it showed the two barns. Or the barn and the manure storage. Okay, so if you can see the main source of smell is obviously the birds, but the manure itself. Currently, you can see that manure pit is closer to their house than where the new manure storage would be. I don't know if you can see that circle by the existing barn. No, that one there, yeah. So that is a liquid pit. It is an open top, so it's exposed to the air. The new manure storage will be dry manure storage, and it'll have boards around it, so there'll be a lot less exposed to the open air. So I feel like the smell would be a little bit more contained. Another thing right now, the existing barn, there are exhaust fans on either side of it. The new barn will only have exhaust fans pointing away from the house. It'll draw air in from, it'll draw air in from the west and expel it out to the east.
So, one of the questions that I would have would be, first of all, was that manure pit existing or was it built with the new barn?
It was existing.
Okay, so I don't know if you ever considered covering it. Would that help? I don't know. I'm just asking.
My future plan is to discontinue using that manure pit. Eventually, I would want to tie the existing barn into the new manure storage so that both barns empty into that new manure storage. It's built to handle both the capacity of both barns. And then that old manure pit would just be not used anymore.
So that new manure storage would be for dry manure.
Correct.
I guess I feel empathy for the Adamses, and I just wonder, can you give a timeline when you think that liquid manure storage would be discontinued?
2036 is when the equipment in that old cage in the old barn is obsolete and I cannot use it anymore. So that barn would have to have renovations done to it. At that point, I would want to do it then.
Okay, so like 12 years then.
Correct.
So you don't foresee yourself ever putting a cover on a manure pit that in 10 or 12 years, you probably won't be using that.
Correct.
Okay.
I will say also, there'll be a lot less birds getting, like, using that manure pit as well. Like, as of next year, there should be no birds using that pit unless things change within the industry. And I don't know how aware you are of the industry right now, but there's a lot of changes going on.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Next year, there'll be no need for that manure pit?
If things, it's very hard to say, but that is a very strong possibility. Right now, the new barn that I'm proposing to build would have more than enough space for all my quota. And I have incentive to put all my birds in that barn because I get paid a premium for the enriched styled housing that they are in.
I guess I'm not trying to be argumentative, but it sounds like, Alex, you will be making some really positive changes that will help with the smell, but only if you have to. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I guess that's fair to say. My thing is, if the opportunity is available for me to put birds into that old barn, I obviously am gonna take that opportunity.
And they would be on liquid storage,
And then they would be
Okay.
on liquid storage.
but a lot less than what's there now.
Currently there would be roughly 25,000 less birds in the barn because there are new regulations that come into effect January.
Any other questions from any of the committee members?
Yeah, just one, Alex. The barn as it's situated now. I talked to Johan briefly about this. Could it not be moved south? Or why are you putting it there? If you may. This comes south, you would probably be meeting the MDS.
Yeah. Yes, I understand that. The problem with that is to bring the eggs from the barn, from the new barn into the existing packing room, it has to go along a conveyor belt that does an L shape. So right now it'd be just a direct hallway. And then it'd be the L would be kind of inside the hallway into the packing room. If I moved it back, I'd have to step that hallway back. And that would mean I'd be blocking off some of my ventilation to the existing barn.
I don't want to put you on the spot, Carolyn, but would you weigh in and just like what I think, and I don't know, but I know you do. Dry manure storage for chickens, unless you disturb it, has very little smell. Am I right as compared to liquid manure?
You are correct. We do have a facility very near one of our properties, and I know broilers is a lot less smell, but on a layer farm, yes, liquid has a higher smell than the dry manure that I know of a layer farm. And that's just a nose test.
But then that's making the assumption that the smell that the neighbors are getting is from the manure pit and not from the barn itself.
I know a layer farm that has dry manure right beside one of our farms, and it's this, the smell is very limited, where I know liquid has a higher ammonia.
You on?
To the chair. So if I could add to that, yes, liquid is less odorous from a MDS perspective when we're doing our calculations. In this case, overall MDS numbers go up because there's an increase in birds overall on the farm. But as Alex mentioned, the amount of birds, manure actually going to that pit is going down because the existing barn, there's a reduction in the amount of birds quite considerably. Also to speak to the member of the public, so if you're putting something that is not a livable space, so if it's a shed, something of that sort, there's no restrictions, that the barn imposes. If it's regarding a livable space, so if you're doing alterations to the house is okay, but if if the house burns down, you want to rebuild it, you can still rebuild it on the same footprint, and you can increase, you can have additions to the side of the house that's not on the side of the barn, so no closer. Those would be your limitations. Right. Thank you.
Hi, Mike Adams. Quick question on that. If perchance or something by the farm and they don't want a house, they want a new house and put it right behind the original house, which is further away from the highway and it's straight behind the house. There's lots of room for beside the shed and the barn and all our stuff. That will put the new house closer to the chicken barn. So now do we have to get a minor variance to put the house there? Or are we not allowed to put the house there? Cause the chicken barn is now there. If it gets passed now, is the chicken barn now becoming the main thing and our house can't go, a new house can't go there?
To the chair, regarding a new house coming behind the existing house.
Yeah.
When you put a new house, it needs any new house in the agricultural area, if it's within the vicinity of livestock facilities, would require an MDS1 calculation. So that's the calculation when you're putting down a house. MDS1 is considered an encroaching use, so it's not a livestock operations. It's an encroaching use on the surrounding livestock operations. MDS1 has more restrictive MDS distances required. So seeing that facility as it is already there now and seeing how close MDS got from the MDS2 from the barn, automatically it's very unlikely that the new house, even without the new proposed barn, it's very unlikely that would meet MDS.
Why is that? Because we are legally right now, the way everything sits, we can move back 40 or 50 feet and still be that, was it 300 or 250 meters or whatever you have to be. But if that new barn comes in and it's only 230 meters, now I come back 40 feet or 10 meters, now it's 210 or 212. That barn's now there. I can't put my house there and you won't let me put my house ahead of it where the highway is. So I'm gonna have to move everything, all septic, water, everything has to move for the property.
So, to the chair, my apologies. You're actually right. I don't remember the MDS number of when the existing barn was actually put up. I misremembered it. So you're actually right. You would be able to move the house a bit. If it actually meets the MDS1 calculation. I'm not sure if you can. But if what you're saying is true, then potentially yes.
So right now, if the chicken barn doesn't go up, I can build a new house. But if the new chicken barn goes up where he's wanting it, I can't build a new house.
So regarding the new house, so would you keep the existing house and build a new house? We have limits on how many houses you can actually have on the lot.
No, the old house would be torn down.
Okay,
But the new house would probably go right behind it, so you're going into virgin land instead of you can't, if you dig out an old basement and try to put a house in,
I get that
not
now.
the same size, you're always gonna have water problems.
Okay, I get that now. Yeah, sorry for my confusion.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
to that point, yes, this would restrict it further, for sure.
So if we wanna build a house, we can't.
If you're getting closer to the barn. So if you're building it away from,
I can't go away, cause that's where the highway is.
um,
I'd have to go closer to my neighbors to the west because of that picture there.
So Johan, what I thought was if Mike and Carrie wanted to build a new house or a new house was to be built on that farm, they have to be a minimum of 235 meters away, right? Because right now they're 235 meters. So if they built a new house, no matter where, it would have to be a minimum of 235. correct?
No, so
Oh.
if they were building a house, it would be a separate calculation. So when you put a barn down, you do an MDS2 calculation. So that's the calculation that's done for the barns. When you put a house down, it's an MDS1 calculation and the numbers are very different. It's actually way more restrictor, so it's larger distances. Because it's considered an encroaching use. The MDS2 is not a encroaching use, it's an agricultural use, it's a livestock operation, so MDS is much less harsh on them. We want to make it easier for farmers to put up barns.
Okay, so then what you're saying is if this barn is allowed to be built or it isn't, it doesn't really make any difference. They'll have a lot of trouble building a new house.
So regardless, because the barn is so close to the property, you would have difficulties building a new house. I can't speak, I can't give you a definite answer because I would need to know, I would need to know where the proposed location is and I would need to do an MDS1 calculation. But to that point, it would be very difficult if it's a new house and it's not in the same location. If it is in the same location, right, very similar footprint and it's no closer, then that would not be an issue.
There won't be a problem then?
Yeah, if it's in the same footprint, it's not an issue. And if you want the house to be bigger, if you expand away from the barn, that's fine. So when I'm looking at the site, it seems that there's a lot of property west of the existing house right now.
Mhm.
There isn't?
So we've got to move everything to the west if we want to.
I can't speak for servicing. I'm not an expert on that. So I don't know how that would play into that.
But you're saying it would be legal to tear the house down, put it on the exact same footprint?
Yes.
And we don't have to get,
Yes, no MDS calculation required. That's actually exempt from doing MDS calculation.
but if we want a new house right behind it. which
Yeah, so
most
if
people
it gets
do.
closer, then that's the issue. That triggers the calculation. So if it's on the same footprint or further away, no issue.
Okay,
So keeping that in mind, we have rules and regulations and setbacks for a purpose, correct? And we're all farmers in this. So we own 100 acres or close to 100 acres. Right beside us, our son and my husband are involved in the same farm. So if you were to approve this, what you're saying to us is you're taking away our right to be able to build on our own property. And we'd have to go further into the next property. If our son decides to put a poultry farm up on that property and you give them a minor variance to come even close to our house, we're in a lot of trouble. I just think we have these setbacks put in place for a reason. These properties are all the same width on that road. I understand the commitment. You've got a barn there, you want to use the existing equipment, but there's a lot of land on that farm that could be used for a barn. It doesn't have to come that close to our house. And then if this, just wondering, will there be a cover if it goes through? Is there a cover on the solid manure?
Yes, yes.
So, and as I said, I don't know, maybe the smell from the existing barn, when the fans kick on, we know exactly when those fans kick on. And I can tell you exact time at 9 o'clock at night when they first started. It was at 9 o'clock at night it would kick on. So, and it could be because it was liquid manure. I do not know. We do not have poultry ourselves, but I would think when those fans kick on, we're still gonna smell it.
Wayne, can you push the button? I have a question for you on. So Mike and Carrie live on a farm. There used to be cattle on that farm. And if there were cattle put back on that farm in their barn, that would be considered a livestock operation. So would that therefore impact the MDS calculations on a new home? Because if they were to move the house behind the existing one, it would be closer to their livestock barn, and that would be their choice. But how does that impact a neighboring farm?
Through the chair, just to understand your question, if the members of the public who spoke, if they had a previous livestock operation or the neighbors had.
They live on a farm that previously had beef cattle. And they have every right to put beef cattle back in their barn without doing a building permit if they so choose, if the barn can handle livestock. I don't know if it can or can't. So if they had existing livestock, I'm just asking this question because I want to know. If they had existing livestock in their barn, so their livestock farm are still A1 zoned, would that still make them have to follow or abide by MDS 1 calculations versus MDS 2 calculations?
So forgive me if I misunderstood the question, but if the barn and the proposed house is on the same property, that barn that's exempt from MDS.
But it still would imply, so anybody who wants to build a house in the country, whether they have livestock or not, has to follow the MDS 2 calculations versus the MDS 1's calculations to their neighbors, not to their own barn. Is that correct?
So, yeah, so it's, if someone's putting up a house, that's an MDS 1 calculation. And that is to the surrounding barns. And if somebody's putting a barn, that's an MDS 2 calculation to the surrounding houses, so surrounding residential. But if someone's putting a barn on a property and there's a house there on that same property, that is exempt because the assumption is the farmer is putting up their own barn. So they're okay with the smell that comes from their own operation.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? As there's no further questions, the committee hereby closes this portion of the meeting. Notice of the decision will be mailed out within 10 days from the date of the committee's decision. The appeal period is 20 days after the date the decision is mailed. After that date, if there are no appeals filed, then the application becomes final and the property owner will be sent a notice. Thanks everyone for attending. Now I'll ask the committee for a decision.
I will go ahead and make a motion. I would make the motion that application A03-25 from Alex DeConing at 8289 Egremont Road be rejected.
Seconder to that motion. I need a seconder, then it's open for discussion, unless John wants to pull his motion, but we still have to have a discussion after we get a seconder.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by John, seconded by Dave, so it's open for discussion.
I'm understanding both sides of this, being, we are in an agriculture community, but I struggle with preventing the neighbor to be able to have future building opportunities, but it's important to see growth in agricultural too. So is there any other building options that Alex has looked at besides what was proposed here with that barn there? Is there a way to extend the packing area out so that we can push the barn back? Just throwing out there for some further discussion on opportunities to move that barn, because it is 100 acres and lots of building room there. But I'd like to see this young guy to be able to build, but I'd like to be respectful to the neighbors at the same time.
If I may. If you move that barn south, I know it's gonna be a little more costly or a little change the way things are gonna happen. Would it change the smell much? How much do you think it'd have to move south? It's not like I, just looking at it, 20 feet maybe would do it, because we're not talking a large amount, are we? Johanna.
To that point, we would have to draw a diameter, so a radius from the livable space of that house and take 249 meters off of that and then draw an arc and keep the barn out of that. So I don't know, because it's a diagonal, I can't speak to an actual number.
So I was trying to picture it.
Yeah.
I came in to see this morning. Like if we moved it south, I think
Turn my phone on.
if we moved it south, I think the smells will still be there, but it'll fall within the MDS, and then Alec wouldn't have to go through all this. I was just trying to, because having gone through the MDS manual, it says right in there that the governments are really supposed to be applying by that.
I'd just like to make a comment. I just want everybody to consider that if Alex moves the barn back to not need this minor variance, which is only 10, 12 meters, he can build the barn without any of us being able to do anything. But keep in mind, from what we talked about today, if you were to build a new house behind your other one, you would still be applicable to MDS 2, which would be further away than the current. If you build it where your currently house is now, it would be fine. But if you moved it back, you wouldn't be able to build it there. So I just want you to keep that in mind, because Alex could go ahead and do this without a minor variance. He's asking for a minor variance, but he could still build a barn there. So I'm just making that comment.
I think that's something I hadn't thought about. That's a very good point. That's why you're chairman, I guess. I think that's that gives me pause to reconsider my motion or how I will vote.
Okay, there's currently a motion on the floor. Does anybody wish to make any changes, or do I call the vote?
Suggest you call the vote and see where we're at.
All those in favor? All those opposed? I guess we're at a stalemate. We need another motion to make a decision.
I'll happily go ahead and make another motion. Make the motion that for A03-25, Alex DeConing, 8289 Egremont Road, that we agree with the planner and go ahead and allow this minor variance.
Seconder for that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by John, seconded by Carolyn. All those in favor?
Discussion just in case.
Yeah, let's have a discussion. Any discussion? There's no discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? No. Motion is carried. Thank you all for coming. Is there any other business, Heather?
Just for my public members.
Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Seconder, Wayne?